All right, guys, so we will now be moving on to implicit meaning questions. And if you did watch the previous video, I kind of reinforced the format, but I will do it again. So we are currently on paper one, which is a reading paper. The total marks for this paper are 50. The total time for this paper is 2 hours. We are currently on section A, which comes entirely from text A and is for 25 marks. Similarly, section B is entirely from text B and is also for 25 marks, hence the 50 mark total. Question number 1 is for 16 marks, explicit meaning questions. This is a type of question that comes within explicit meaning questions, and you can practice them from the code 1123, 0990, or 05. The paper that we're currently using is a 0500 paper. Question number 2 is for 9 marks. That is what we will be tackling in this video. It's implicit meaning questions. You read from extracts, from certain extracts given from the insert, and you draw out certain impressions or effects, right? And then there's section B from text B for 25 marks, and these are the two parts from within question number 3 that you are to answer. So in this video, we're just doing implicit meaning questions. Now, your implicit meaning questions are questions that require you to look beyond the text and find out the effect or the impression that the writer was trying to create, right? So they're not straightforward or obvious like your explicit meaning questions. You do have to do a little bit of thinking for these, right? So they will give you certain extracts or words or phrases from the text, and you will be drawing out certain effects from those, right? And this is going to be for 9 marks total, with parts A to E. So you'll be doing the same thing that you do in explicit meaning questions. You will first be reading the implicit meaning questions, then going to the insert and answering them. So let's start. We will be reading the questions first. Question number 1, part A, read this extract. The kayak has been around for centuries. It was first used by people living in the Arctic regions for navigating waterways. It offered a pragmatic way to hunt fish and transport passengers across water. What does the writer want to suggest about the origins of the kayak in this part of the text? This is for 1 mark. Question number 1, part B, read this extract. Open to everyone, basic kayaking requires no previous experience other than a passion for exploring open waters. Why does the writer use the phrase no previous experience other than a passion to describe kayaking? And this is again for a mark. C, read the sentence. Kayaking can be combined with other outdoor activities like camping and fishing, adding another layer of challenge to your trip. What 2 impressions does the writer want to convey about the versatility of kayaking in this sentence? Sit-on tops are increasingly popular as they're the most stable, easy to get into and out of, so a great choice for new or nervous paddlers, for warm environments, and for paddling with kids who love to swim. What does the writer suggest about the design of sit-on-top kayaks by using the word stable? Part E, read this sentence. Responsible kayakers always drain their boat before leaving a paddle site to avoid transporting water, which may contain some form of living creature or plant material from one watercourse to another. Identify 1 example from the sentence of how the writer uses language effectively to promote environmental responsibility. Explain the impression the writer creates. And this again is for 3 marks. Now, this particular part is a part that always comes in your implicit meaning questions, right? So part E to D might vary, obviously, depending on the content, depending on the style of the question. But part E is the same, right? It's going to be the same question, same number of marks. Obviously, the extract will be different. But apart from that, everything is the same. You will identify 1 example from the sentence of how the writer uses language effectively to, and then the prompt from the insert, and then you would explain the impression the writer creates, right? So 1 mark for the correct example identified, which is more of an explicit task, and then 2 marks for your explanation of that phrase. So that is a question that you can definitely be mentally prepared for. All right, that being said, let's move on to our insert. I'll read it again just in case you're not coming from the explicit meaning video, in which I did read the insert. So this will just be a speedy reading. Kayaking is a fun activity that involves moving through water using a double-bladed paddle in a small buoyant vessel, a kayak. The paddler sits face forward in a cockpit with the legs extended beneath a closed deck, propelling ahead with alternating side-to-side paddle strokes. The kayak has been around for centuries. It was first used by people living in the Arctic regions for navigating waterways. It offered a pragmatic way to hunt fish and transport passengers across water. Nowadays, kayaking is also a great activity for enthusiasts for all levels. One reason for its popularity, it can be a wonderful way to discover quiet, shallow waters at the edge of a lake or an exciting, high-energy sport racing along fast-moving rivers and rapids. Open to everyone, basic kayaking requires no previous experience other than a passion for exploring open waters. Kayaking can be combined with other outdoor activities like camping and fishing, adding another layer of challenge to your trip. If you plan on ski touring or rock climbing in areas that require water travel, a kayak can be an excellent tool for accessing the remote beauty of a region. Kayaks come in two basic styles: sit on tops and sit inside. Sit on tops are increasingly popular as they're the most stable, easy to get into and out of, so a great choice for new or nervous paddlers, for warm environments, and for paddling with kids who love to swim. Sit inside shelter your lower body from the wind, which makes them much warmer. They're great for paddlers in cooler water who want to stay dry while paddling and who consider the kayak more a vehicle for travel than a toy. Sleek and noiseless kayaks have few limits, though high traffic waterways are best avoided to prevent accidents. Faster vessels emitting pollutants can seriously harm populations of water dwelling species who cannot move quickly enough to avoid a speedy oncoming. Kayaking is an environmentally friendly alternative to boating. Responsible kayakers always drain their boat before leaving a paddle site to avoid transporting water, which may contain some form of living creature or plant material, from one water course to another. So this is something that I mentioned in the previous video as well. You guys have to make sure that once you've read the text for the first time, to summarize to yourself what went on in the text. What was the text about? Because at times in an exam we can read mindlessly just to get through the text. And so you have to make sure that once you're done reading, you know what you read, right? You need to digest it a little bit. Take a moment to do that, to just summarize it in your head, or if you want to write a line or two at the end, um, so you know that you understood the text as well, right? And then you can start answering the question. So, by the way, in implicit meaning questions, it's very important that you understand the question, because if you misunderstand the question, you're not writing the correct answer, obviously. So make sure that if you need to underline important phrases from the question, if you don't understand the question just in the way that it's been written, do whatever you can to make it, to break it down so that it is understandable for you, and then start answering. So question number one, read this extract. The kayak has been around for centuries. It was first used by people living in the Arctic regions for navigating waterways, offered a pragmatic way to hunt fish and transport passengers across the water. What does the writer want to suggest about the origins of the kayak in the text? So there is definitely this idea of, you know, usefulness, that it was quite useful. The method was quite useful um, once it was when it was used by people living in the Arctic region, right? It offered an appropriate way to hunt, to fish, to transport passengers across water. So I'm going to build up on that idea of utility. Right, so that could have been an idea that we could have pitched. Read this extract. Open everyone, basic kayaking requires no previous experience other than a passion for exploring open waters. By the way, I'm not referring to a mark scheme because I made these questions. Why does the writer use the phrase no previous experience other than a passion to describe kayaking? So here it's quite obvious that there's this idea of not needing any previous experience other than passion for exploring open waters, which means that even beginners or even somebody who might feel unqualified to start kayaking can take it on, right? So, mm, all right. All right. So this is the kind of response that would have sufficed. It's a 1 mark question. So this is enough. Read this sentence. Kayaking can be combined with other outdoor activities like camping and fishing, adding another layer of challenge to your trip. What two impressions does the writer want to convey about the versatility of kayaking in this sentence? Combined with other outdoor activities like camping, fishing, and adding another layer of challenge to your trip. So first is this idea of, kayaking is it can be kind of combined with other activities as well. So it doesn't have to be done as a solo sport. Um, it's sort of multi-purpose that way. And then adding another layer of challenge to your trip, it also presents the sense of adventure and challenge. So these are the two things. So we can. All right, so something like this would have sufficed. I added leading to a sense of achievement to show a little more implicitness, to show a little more development. That should earn us 2 marks. Read the sentence, sit on top kayaks. Sit on tops are increasingly popular as they're the most stable, easy to get into and out of. So great choice for new or nervous paddlers, for warm environments, and for paddling with kids who love to swim, right? So this is about the style of kayak. There was a sit on top kayak and then there was a sit inside kayak. What does the writer suggest about the design of sit on top kayak by using the word stable? Okay, they're the most stable, easy to get into and out of. So great choice for new or nervous paddlers, for warm environments, and for paddling with kids who love to swim. Okay, so first of all, the straightforward connotation of stable would be that it's secure. It's easy and it's secure to get in, right? So that would be one. The second one would be, if you look here, new nervous paddlers, warm environments, paddling with kids who love to swim, right? Anybody who is a beginner or who is hesitant to try kayaking, the idea of stable again suggests that they would find it easy to take it on because it's secure. So both the ideas are kind of intertwined that way. All right. And now we'll be moving on to part E. So read the sentence, responsible kayakers always drain their boat before leaving a paddle site to avoid transporting water, which may contain some form of living creature or plant material from one watercourse to another. Identify one example from the sentence of how the writer uses language effectively to promote environmental responsibility. Explain the impression the writer creates. All right. So here, one example. By the way, you will find several examples. You just have to pick the one um, that you can elaborate most pertinently. All right. Responsible kayakers always drain their boat before leaving a paddle site to avoid transporting water, may contain some form of living creature or plant material from one watercourse to another. I'll go with this. Always drain their boat. It could also be to avoid transporting water, may contain some form of living creature or plant material. I think any of these three phrases would have worked. The most powerful, I think, is this one, or the most effective is this one. Now, it could also be a word that you pick out. It could also be a phrase that you pick out. Um, not the entire sentence, of course, because that isn't really extraction. That's just pasting the sentence they already gave you. So, right. Okay. Example, explanation. This is our example. right? So this would have sufficed. So see how the explanation is something that entirely came from me, but the basis of it was in the text, right? So it is what the um, line suggests, right? I just took it a step forward. So I also said that too, with the hope, without the hope or greed of reward or acknowledgement. And I also mentioned that they do it voluntarily. It's not that they have somebody telling them to do this. They just do this out of genuine concern for the environment. And that is your implicit meaning question. Just remember that the key with them is understanding the question fully and then relating everything to the insert, obviously, right? That's a given. And that is all for implicit question.